Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to Evolving Consciousness. Hope you people are doing well, feeling good, and if not, towards the end of this video, you will start feeling good. You will experience elements of tranquility, you will experience solace and a profound sense of bliss as well. If you are tuning into this channel for the very first time, in this channel we talk a host of topics ranging from inspirational real life stories of legends, people who can ignite the flame within your consciousness, and also things related to personal development, things which can uplift you, things which will motivate you and inspire you to become a better version of yourself. If you really enjoy this type of content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Also, do share the content of this channel if you really relished it and if you found value out of it. In today's video, we are going to talk about a concept, a powerful narrative which was said by a person called Eckhart Tolle. You probably know about him, or if you don't, he is one of those visionaries. He is being revered as a renowned spiritual teacher in the West. But what led to his massive fame was the international bestseller called The Power of Now. A book which is filled with aha moments. A book which has nothing to do with intellectual dynamism. It is a book which needs to be experienced. No amount of talking about the book will ever do justice to the book as opposed to experiencing that book. We are going to try to explain or sort of break the different elements which are discussed in that book in a very robust manner so that you get inspired to probably look at the contents of that book. Because this is one of those books which is absolutely basic, fundamental. It doesn't talk about any kind of philosophy. It does not incline towards any school of spiritual philosophy. But it is a book which can be easily understood by anyone, and more than understanding, there is a deeper dimension of yourself which is being touched upon when you glance through this book, that you will suddenly start to experience the power of this book. The Power of Now has been one of the most known books in the spiritual community, and it won't be an overstatement to say that it is considered to be the top 5 books, the world's top 5 books, which talks about genres of spirituality, which talks about mindfulness. Now there's a lot of talk about mindfulness across the world. Mindfulness in itself has become as an emerging industry. Now, to put it very simply, this book brings our attention back to this moment, to the immense importance of the now. Now, for someone hearing this for the very first time, someone who has never experienced what being mindful is, he might think like, what is so great about this concept of the power of now? I mean, is it only about being in the moment? Because that seems very simple, right? I know for a fact that being in the now makes me more productive, I become more focused, but being in the now is way beyond these rudimentary ideas. These are very rudimentary ramifications of what you tend to understand about being in the now. These are very small offshoots or small benefits of being in the now, but there are very deep benefits of being in the now. Scientific research has discovered that human beings on an average think about 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day. 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day. Yes, you heard that right. This is the amount of thoughts each one of us is consciously or unconsciously thinking. Now you might say, so what? It is natural to think. It is natural to think But the bad news is 80 to 85% of those repetitive thoughts are useless, or they are of a negative quality. Now, again, you might think, so what? Be thinking negative is natural, stress is natural in today's competitive, chaotic environment where the future looks bleak. Now, let me humbly put forward another research, another scientifically backed study. It is said 90 to 95% of all known physical ailments in today's world, they are psychosomatic, meaning they have a psychological root cause. There's a phenomenal book called You Can Heal Yourself by Lucy L. Hay, who is probably one of the most influential healers in the spiritual community. She had given a list wherein every small to vicious disease, she has rooted it to a particular thought pattern, a particular belief system. And she also goes with a caveat and says that it's not necessary that 100% of this list, this mapping which she has provided for every emotion or corresponding disease is 100% accurate, but more or less you will be astonished that most of the times her list seems valid and is accurate and is backed by renowned doctors and even the people who are practicing medicine. That is a go-to guide for them. That book serves as a go-to guide for them. Hence, it's very important that we monitor the quality of our thoughts, because we are taking it for granted. We think that it's okay to feel not okay, but it's not okay to feel not okay for an extended period of time. Sure, we all have our moments of down, but should we be down for an extended period of time, and which will eventually take a toll on your body, on the other dimensions of your life? Because let's remember one thing, health is something which is most ignored in today's day and world, right? And you always need to understand one thing, that the majestic crown of health can only be seen by a person who himself is sick. Only a sick person can see the crown of health on a person who is healthy. Meaning, we seldom give value to the health we have when we are healthy. We only understand the importance of what being healthy is when we fall sick. Like most of the things, right? Until you lose it, you don't understand its value and importance. Now, this topic is not about health, but this topic is about the importance of catering towards the mind, the importance of understanding the power of now, and the importance of this practice of mindfulness. Now, mindfulness, many of you might be of the opinion that this is a concept which the West has heavily banged upon, and they have probably capitalized a lot out of it. But if you look at the rich heritage and culture of India, there is a term in Sanskrit which is called Sakshi Bhav. Now, this was a term which was coined way back, many years before this modern day mindfulness came into picture. In the classic texts, it's very much evident and clear about the concept of mindfulness, wherein it is being told to become an observer, to the Sakshi Bhav practice. Now, coming back to this phenomenal book of The Power of Now. Now, this book, the way the format is structured of this book, it's like a conversation Eckhart Tolle is having with a fellow interviewer. So there are a series of question and answers which have been compartmentalized in different chapters, and every chapter has a defining title which touches upon different aspects of the time, of this consciousness of being in the now. To give you a very pragmatic example of how blissful being in the now is, let's say that I think most of you can relate to this. If you have been in a place which is surrounded with the wilderness and beauty of nature, you will immediately feel a certain sense of bliss, a certain sense of tranquility without you being even doing anything. Now, what just happened? You were so mesmerized and completely consumed by the beauty of nature that for a moment you ceased to think. You came out of your mind and you saw the reality. You let that reality consume you. And in the process, you created this space of no mind when you were absolutely awestruck by the brilliance of nature. Now, when you feel that, that is a true sense of being. You actually experience that dimension which is always there within you, but most of us seldom have that aha moments. Whenever you do get a chance to experience those aha moments, be grateful for them. But Eckhart, in his book, The Power of Now, talks about the fact that we human beings are consciously capable of creating those aha moments. Those moments of deep solace, bliss, and tranquility can be created through our conscious will. The number one concept he talks about is the illusion of the past and the future. He says the number one reason we don't stay in the present moment is we are caught up either in the resentments of the past or in the anticipation of the future. He gives a beautiful concept of clock time versus psychological time. Now, to put it very simply, clock time is the regular time which you watch. Morning 10 a.m., afternoon 12 p.m., evening 6 p.m. This is what is referring to as clock time, and this is needed to function in today's world, right? I mean, if you don't have the concept of time, clock time, you probably won't be able to function. But now, here comes the fun part. Most of us are not operating through clock time, but we are operating through psychological time. Now, what this means? Psychological time basically means even though today is a certain date, right? So, let's say we are in the beginning of April. Today is 2nd April 2022. But I am not there in 2nd April 2022 at 1 p.m. I am probably 4-5 months back in a certain different time zone and space, meaning my thinking, my thoughts are constantly thinking about that reality which seldom doesn't exist now. It's not existing anymore. It is just in the psychological thinking space. Now, if you go deep into it, right, and if you understand the potency of this concept, you will begin to laugh at your own thought processes, because you will understand how futile your unnecessary reliance on past and future is. Because it says that it's not a philosophical standpoint. It says proven pragmatic intellectual knowledge. Because if you think about it, there is no past, there is no future. There is only the now which exists. Let this thought just sink into your consciousness, and you will suddenly feel a sense of relief, because you will suddenly break free from the past and from the anticipation of the future. And this is what all schools of spirituality, all schools of thought which deal with spirituality, always the aim is to come to the present moment. Whichever practice you follow, their ultimate moment, their ultimate objective is to bring us to that pristine present moment. Now, even neuroscience talks about this concept of metacognition. Quantum physics talks about the concept of the observer effect, wherein it was noticed the nature of observation of particles produced palpable changes in the thing which was being observed upon. Now, Eckhart gives a very pragmatic exercise. He says, watch the thinker. Whenever you are free, just ask yourself, what is the next thought which is coming to my mind? And give a brief pause to just look at the thoughts. without getting consumed in those thoughts. Now, this is very important to note. What happens is, most of us, when a certain stream of thoughts is running through our consciousness, we need to be careful that we shouldn't judge or label those thoughts. Without judging or labeling those thoughts, we need to just observe them. And in the process, we are creating a space between them. And the more the space you create between thoughts, the more the space of no mind, the more you are coming back to the present moment. Now, this is a very short glimpse of the knowledge which is being proposed in this book. Because this book is like an experiential treat for anyone who reads it. Even without you realizing, you will automatically slip into modes of bliss and tranquility. This book is so powerful. You are not doing anything, just if you are trying to understand and probably digest the concepts in that book, if you read line by line that book, you will automatically start feeling bliss. And a bliss which is going to stay with you for a long time. And this is not a very easy affair to do, because we are so conditioned throughout our upbringing of living in the past and in the future that we seldom can think in a way which is being proposed in this book. But it's an extremely productive way of living, because most of our energy, modern day science has also proved that 80 to 90% of fatigue which you experience towards the end of the day, it is because of the mental fatigue and less to do with the physical dimension. You would have probably experienced when you had a very bad argument or a mentally stressful day, probably towards the end of the day, you might feel feeling extremely tired, extremely fatigued, even though you haven't physically exhausted yourself, but due to the mind, because let's remember, the brain uses probably the most energy than any other organ, right? And the more mentally you consume yourself or fatigue yourself, lesser the energy reserve you have to utilize for other activities. So it is very important that we harness our energies in a more productive way. Hence, being mindful is not only a luxury which we can just read and relish, but it needs to be a part of our daily routine if we want to avoid all the things which are happening in the modern generation, right? And he says a beautiful concept. He says that beyond happiness and unhappiness, there is peace. He says this constant influx of positive thoughts and negative thoughts. If you look at it, positive thoughts might be appealing to us in contrast to negative thoughts, but essentially they are two sides of the same coin. And happiness also has the roots of unhappiness. Let's say you want to do something and for some reason that didn't happen. Suddenly you feel remorse, suddenly you feel that life is collapsed. But this is not to say that we need to be doing nothing and we need not have any ambitions. No, that's not what he's saying. The entire focus is to move from a sense of compulsiveness to a more consciousness, to becoming more conscious. Hence, it's very important to understand the depth of this particular topic. And one very interesting aspect, if you feel that you are very clouded, just go into open space and look at the sky, which doesn't have any boundaries or any confines. When you do that, you will automatically start to experience that you will feel a sense of space between your thoughts. Now, there are so many different layers of explanation as to why this happens. One explanation is that our body is made of 5 elements, right? And one of the element is the Akash Tattva or space. So whenever we are observing space, the gap between the thoughts is created, and we get more space to probably detach from those thoughts. And we suddenly start feeling bliss and solace. Now, these are things which not only are good to hear, but need to be experienced. Because no matter how much I'm going to talk about the plethora of benefits of mindfulness, You can always research how being mindful can not only make you a more productive, happy, and a fulfilled person, but it can make you a giant even in your material dimension, right? And this is something which we all are longing for. But most of us don't know that the things which we are chasing in this outside world won't give us that fulfillment, or even if they give that fulfillment, it's always fluctuating. But if you want to tap into that infinite source of bliss and tranquility which is already within each one of us. Now, this is not something which is reserved for only a few special folks. No. And he gives this beautiful concept, right? Because most of us have made enlightenment so complicated. He says that enlightenment is in the now. You don't have to do anything for it. Just start practicing being in the now, and you will experience enlightenment in every second of your day. He makes it extremely simple. What I really loved about this book is not at all talking about fancy intellectual concepts. It's talking about the experiential dimensions which you and me can relate to, which you and me can experience. I hope this video gave you a new lens to view life, because we are become so deeply conditioned to our compulsive thought process. It's leading to disastrous consequences. If one of the studies, it is said that by 2023 our country is going to be probably ranking even worse in the world's happiness index. Right now the rank is rank number 127, and if we don't do something about it, this is going to bring more catastrophe and different subtler levels as well as in wider dimensions. Hence, it's very important to take responsibility. Leadership begins at home. If you are becoming more aware, and that even before at home, it begins with you. So, self leadership is the key to personal transformation. Rumi said it so beautifully. He said that yesterday I was knowledgeable and I thought I will change the world, but today I am wise, so I am changing myself. Hope that quote resonated with you. Hope you really liked the contents of today's video, and hope I inspired a spark to research more of Eckhart Tolle's work, because his work speaks to a timeless dimension within you, which you can feel and experience. A dimension which speaks volumes to you without any words. He talks about the sound of silence, the gap between the thoughts, gap between the words. Hope this video was of value to you. If you really liked the video, don't forget to share it with 3 of your friends, because the more you share this kind of content, the more you will be able to cultivate this content in your own consciousness. Thank you so much, and meet you in the next video. Bye.